Hey, I'm back after not making an original Skylanders video for like half a year. So ignoring the fact that I hadn't made new content in like half a year, I'm back! And 3D! Woohoo! So, how do Skylanders work exactly? I'm sure you all know by now about how Skylanders use NFC chips in order to work in-game. That's basically common knowledge to every Skylanders fan at this point. The real question I want to answer is how these work. What goes on in a portal and a figure for them to, work? To give credit, since I can't have done any of this by myself, thanks to the efforts of Winter Nombre, Margin Neppers, Brandon Wilson, and MAF's combined research, and an especially huge thanks to the various tech support and TextEd, who had both worked on a ton of the reverse engineering efforts, along with proofreading my script and weeding out my errors. Real fast, I will be leaving all the documentation I used in the description. It would be really awesome if you could check it out. So, I don't actually have a segue for my intro. We're just starting the video now. Of course, I'd have to talk about how the figures work first. You all know how Skylanders figures have that small NFC chip in the base, so how does that chip work? Well, for this video, let's use our good friend and beloved Pop Fizz. Pop Fizz has a normal figure, an in-game variant, 2 reposes, one with an in-game variant, and a supercharger with an in-game variant. When we open up the data, this is what we get. Each Skylander figure has 1024 bytes of data, and luckily you guys can read more of the documentation at this link. That's right, I will continually link this documentation over and over. Please go read this, because these people are putting in 99% of the work. I'm just the one making the video. Before we jump straight into how Skylanders actually work, we're gonna have to explain hexadecimals, which sounds scary and complex, but bear with me here. When you normally count numbers, you go all the way up to 9 before another digit is needed. We count in base 10, probably because we have 10 Anyways. Computers, on the other hand, use base 16. You go all the way up from 0 to 9, and then you go up A, B, C, until you reach F. Then a new digit's added and you reach 10, which in hexadecimal values is actually 16, hence base 16. Stay with me here, this is Skylanders related. So with that out of the way, we can finally talk about the Skylanders themselves. Opening a figure's data in a hexadecimal editor, our first notable byte is at address 0x10, where we get the toy ID number. Very simple, every Skylander figure has a different byte here, and this is the main thingamaroo that determines the character on the chip. Whirlwind is 00, Sonic Boom is 01, Tornado is 02, and then we get to the double digits where, here in TextEd's documentation, it says Pop Fizz is number 108. But in hexadecimals, as explained earlier, 108 is saved as 6C. The biggest number you can get in hexadecimals is FF, which is 255. Although since there are 2 bytes of data in the Skylander character ID, the largest number that can be stored here is 65,535. And if you're curious about Skylander IDs, you can view every figure's ID here, in the aforementioned documentation by TextEd. The next byte of notable info is at 0x14, where you have your trading card ID. This would also generate your web code for games like Lost Islands or that one web game I never played as a kid that's like Animal Jam but cooler. It's a joke, I still play Animal Jam. Next at 1C, which is byte 28, there's a variant ID. SSA Skylanders have this empty, but others have base variant IDs with year codes. We have standard year codes here. Spyro 2011 is 0, Giants 2012 is 1, Shapeshifters 2013 is 2. Saying the year name with the game might sound redundant, but these are actual stored names here. Oh, and we have Invalid being -1. Oh, and Yokai Watch. For obvious reasons, you can't actually have Invalid as your year code. The rest of the year codes are pretty standard, at least. We have Trap Team 2014, Superchargers 2015, Skylanders 2016, and... Oh, wait, what's that? Oh, my bad, I misread that. Count! Punch Pop Fizz has a variant ID being 02. There's a few more numbers in the variant ID that contain some variant info data. For example, if a Skylander is a light core, an in-game variant, it has a wow pow, in which case the year code will tell the game it's a repos, and whether or not a Skylander is a supercharger, though apparently this supercharger bit is useless and the games never actually use it since the superchargers ended up having their own toy ID, which is why they aren't actually backwards compatible. Some other data stored in their figures include their nickname, if they have any, the minute the figure was last used, the hour when the figure was last used, the day they were last used, the month, and the year they were last used. Which is a lot. The figures used to also have owner IDs, but from Swap Force onwards, the owner IDs became redundant, and instead the game itself stored what figures you do or don't own. Though apparently, the Superchargers and onwards, another owner ID was added that keeps track of stuff like a PSN account. Great, now you know how the NFC tags work. So, you set your figure on a portal, the portal reads the tag in a weirdly specific order that I don't know much about, and sends the information back to the game. The game pops in your Skylander from the data that it reads. But how exactly does that work? I'm not sure if this is a common misconception necessarily, but some might think that the Skylanders files itself must be stored on the tag, including the model, textures, animations, everything else. Again, the tags hold only a little over 1,000 bytes, while a model for a single Skylander from Giants would already be around 3,500 kilobytes, which is over 3,000 times the size these chips can hold. Again, just the model, not including the loads of other data each Skylander has in their files. Plus, if they did somehow manage to put that model data on one of those insanely small chips, you would be stuck with a Spyro's Adventure Wii trigger happy in your copy of Imaginators, and if you tried bringing a Chap Team Gilgrunt model onto Spyro's Adventure Wii... When the game receives info from the chip, it takes a look at the character ID and pulls the model and code from the associated folder. So if you scan in Pop Fizz, the game takes a look at all the variables stated before. The upgrade path data is read, slapped into the game, coins, experience, and all. The game grabs the model associated with the ID. If it's a variant, the game looks at that ID and grabs textures associated with it, if there are any, and slaps it onto the model. Nope. Wait, why is Pop Fizz like that? Okay, so we have a rare case here. Pop Fizz uses vertex colors for his fur instead of the standard texture swap. Essentially, this means that his fur is colored with, well, colors were stored on these respective vertices. Then I'll grab Wee Raptor here, who has an Easter variant with the Dude texture that's used. Bam! Problem solved! The way that gold is stored means the maximum amount of gold you can have on a figure is 65,535, which, as stated earlier, was one of the bit limits. But some games cap it at 65,000, which is probably because the number looks nicer. All Skylanders level up at the exact same experience amounts, so no Skylander will level up slower or faster than any others. Although a Skylander's experience to level up can be changed, this just goes entirely unused. At 1,000 experience, Skylander will reach level 2, at 6,000 it reaches level 5, and at 33,000 the Skylander reaches level 10. In Imaginators, the cap is increased all the way up to level 20, which requires 197,500 XP, not including Imaginators with Senseis. Imaginators past level 20 level up increasing by 20,000 EXP each time. Level 21 is 220,000, 22 is 240,000, 23 is 260,000, and so on. You may think your Skylander is entirely unique. Or is it? The figure actually makes a clone of your Skylander while you play, not physically, but it's there inside the figure while you play. This clone is used if something goes horribly wrong and constantly updates with your figure's normal data. To keep the data updated, it updates the clone in two separate chunks. Let's call these A and B. Now these chunks are more so the first and second half of your figure's data, but using letters makes me sound smarter, and if you ever complain, we're going to start using the Greek alphabet. When updating the clone, the game alternates chunks when updating. It updates chunk A, then chunk B, then chunk A, you get the point. And if something cataclysmically bad somehow manages to happen to the data on your figure, the game will take these chunks and repair it. Before I start this section, there's another link in the description for more documentation. Martin Neppers wrote pretty much everything on how Skylanders portals work on their own site. Plus, TextHead went over this part with me extensively. Thank you again. The portals are pretty basic. Just like almost every other NFC chip reader, when you open them up, they all have a chip inside of them that's basically responsible for everything the portal does. This chip is actually a small motherboard. When you place a Skylander on it, the chip receives the data and sends it to the game. The chip also holds the data, tells the game what game it's for, or more specifically, which ones it's compatible with. If it's an Xbox portal, there's an extra layer of security, so these can't be used with any other console since Microsoft was worried about its vulnerabilities, whatever that means. There's also a cool light, and since you only see this light through a relatively thick piece of plastic, this thing is bright in my eye! You might also notice this weird little wire. This goes around the area of the portal, and that's just the area the chip can scan, a passive area. The data is picked up, the portal sends the data to the game, and there are certain checks that will make the game send a command for the portal to write to the figure's data. And in the simplest terms, the portal updates your Skylander to reflect current in-game stats. The checks for the game to send an update request are 30 seconds past the last write to the figure, leveling up, every time 100 gold is collected, the Skylander's upgraded, if the hat or trinket a Skylander is wearing gets updated, if the owner is changed, if the nickname is changed, if the Skylander is reset, and after completing a challenge. So the figure is constantly being updated with new info. Even if you're idle and doing nothing, if 30 seconds pass, the figure gets updated again, even if there are no changes. The game really wants to make sure that if something happens, like if your cat knocks over the figure, the progress you made in the last 0.5 milliseconds is still saved. Occasionally, in the case of an accident, the discrepancies are extremely minimal, if there are any at all. All the portals have a few basic commands they receive and use, the first one being the ready command or the reset antenna command, which is sent once the Skylanders game turns on. The ready command is sent to make sure a portal works, and if it's compatible with the current game, since the game checks for a vendor ID and a product ID. Then there's the activate or antenna command, which is pretty self-explanatory. When a portal's plugged in, it isn't activated automatically, it's just powered on. Once it receives the antenna command, the antenna, the communicator inside of the portal, will activate. C is the color command for the portal. This just resets the portal's color to the default cycle it runs through. The query command is what causes the portal to read data from a figure, and it goes hand in hand with the write command, which writes data to the figure whenever one of the previously listed checks are active. The status command tells the game if there's a figure on the portal. Pretty simple, and the command is sent every tick if there's no other commands being sent at the moment, or about 50 times per second. For 3DS portals, it's about 20 times per second. And now for some portal trivia by TextHead! Xbox One Traptanium portals have better sound than the other console portals. Imaginator portals, just the ones released in Imaginators, not the Swap Force ones, read figures slower than other portals because there's an attempt to reject NFC cards. You know, the ones that you see on Etsy that still try to upcharge for Robo? Most NFC cards will get rejected, but apparently there are some that can bypass it. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. We're going to discuss wireless portals real quickly. It's virtually the same technology used in all the other portals, but with two new commands. First up is Z, which is fittingly the sleep command, which is sent by the receiving device when there's no portal connected to it, like in the PC version of Spyro's Adventure. Here's one with a fun name, the 0xFA command. But this command is more technical jargony than most. To put it bluntly, it contains the firmware version of the USB receiver. The Traptanium portal is special, having speakers on it. People have managed to crack these portals and the portal can play audio at an 8,000 Hz sample rate and 16 bits in mono-only audio channels. Because I lied. When I said speakers, it has only one speaker. To give you a brief taste of this beautiful audio quality that would do a symphony justice, here's a quick sample of what it sounds like on whatever speaker you're using. With Traptanium portals, you get another batch of fun commands to use. The command called M toggles the speaker on or off. There's some commands for controlling the light effects of the portal too. J and L are what control the LEDs in the Traptanium portal. J is used to crossfade colors, L controls the light in the trap slot. V is for vibrancy, which changes the strength of a trap slot when the audio plays. This is a command since it will have different values as uses tolerance, which helps make the light play almost equally for all villains regardless of their volume. And lastly, the B command resets the portal color cycle. Correctly manipulating these results in, well, we have the standard here. Spyro is that one web game I never played it. Pyro's Adventure Skylander. Bleh, I need water. The upgrade path. The Traptanium portal is special, having speakers on it. Speakers. Wow!